So the theme for this whole year is grand rising. What do we need to do? And how do we need to behave and think? And what do we need to believe if we want our life to represent a grand rising from wherever we are now to where we want to be? A grand rising. And here in the month of June, we're talking about and thinking about, well, if we want a grand rising, we have to connect ourselves with holy boldness. And if you, like me, have been thinking about that these last few weeks, it's, where can I demonstrate a boldness like I have never demonstrated boldness before? And make sure that boldness is grounded in my holiness, not my humanness. So today is a natural place in the flow, in the order, to then really focus in on higher heights. Higher heights. So thank you, Lisa, because that love lift us up to higher heights where we belong. Not where we aspire to, but we're not quite sure we're worthy of it. Not where we might want to go because someone else is there, but I want to be in the club with Reverend Dr. Rainbow Johnson, so I'm going to do some things. No, it's where we belong, where I belong because of my birthright, because I am an expression of the divine. Where do I belong? Lift me up to that point. Love, lift me up. God, lift me up to where I belong. Spirit, lift me up to where I belong. Self, capital S, self, lift me up to where I belong. Far from the world I know and I've been living in and I've been practicing in and I've been complaining about and I've been criticizing. Far from that world to a place where the clear wind blows. Now, some of you may think I knew that Lisa was going to sing that song. And so I prepared the beginning of this talk based on the lyrics of the song. But no, actually, when she played those first chords, I was like, oh, I wish I had thought of that. That is so perfect. That is the exact point of the message. So it's easy for me then to make that connection that it is love. It is the capital S self that is at the core of my very being that I can count on to lift me up to higher heights where I belong. One of my beliefs is, and one of the things that we teach in Science of Mind is you can always reach higher, no matter where you are now. That there's an infinite option, there's an infinite capability. There is a capability of the infinite to provide something that has not been provided before. So we say things like, all things are possible. And you hear us think and say, principle is not bound by precedent, because we do believe and we do teach that no matter how high I am, I can always go to a higher height. I often hear myself when I'm doing spiritual mind treatment, I often hear myself say, I am here to experience heaven on earth. Or I might say something like, heaven is at hand. And my actual personal theme this year is to live my life as if it is seventh heaven, the ultimate heaven, the highest level of heaven. So that made me think about oh, if the highest height is heaven, and I want heaven to be heaven on earth, I want my life to reflect that. What do I really mean by heaven? What is heaven? And I think one way that I have talked about it in the past is heaven is the physical place, or is a place where all that is happening is reflecting the qualities of God. That's what heaven is. Heaven is a place where the qualities of God are evident in word and action, in the physical experience. What Ernest Holmes teaches us is that heaven is a state of consciousness, and that state of consciousness, because we live from that consciousness, begins to show up in our experience and in our human experience. So I invite you to join me in thinking about higher heights as bringing heaven, or merging your life with or into heaven. And we say higher heights because we're talking about a higher state of consciousness than, as the lyrics of the song say, higher consciousness than the world we know, higher consciousness than the world where there is war and poverty and homophobia or transphobia or racism or global warming and climate change. Far from the world we know, where there are people who are unsheltered and people who work really hard and don't make a living wage and cannot support themselves and need assistance in order to have a home and food. That's the world we know when we look around our environment, when we read the news or look at movies and films or documentaries about what's happening in society. But we want to move to higher heights. We want to ascend our consciousness into heaven in a way that makes it real, that gives us experience, that allows us to breathe in the truth of life and live our life guided spiritually. So yes, you can always go to a higher height, no matter how high you already are experiencing. It is not just about moving from a low place or a hurtful place or a harmful place into a better place. I didn't say better heights. I said higher heights, moving up the ladder of our own individual and collective evolution. Does this make any sense to you? Or is it just making sense to me and something that reflects my own opinion or my own readiness to evolve from what I am, what I have, and who I am, into an even deeper and more consistent expression of what is possible. The second thing that came to mind for me when I was thinking about higher heights was when you choose bigger, you're actually choosing to demonstrate your faith in God. When I choose bigger, better, higher, I'm actually choosing to demonstrate that I have faith in a God, a presence, a universal set of principles that knows more than I know and has an unlimited buffet of choices and options to offer me. So in Science Mind, you'll hear us say things like, oh, I know the universe is conspiring for my good. Or I don't know how that's going to happen, but I know that God knows, or I know that there is a spiritual presence that knows more than I do and knows everything, in fact, and can move whatever needs to be moved to wherever it needs to move in order to make this happen. And, those sound like pretty words. They can sound like cliches when we say them so quickly that we don't really think about what we're saying. But think about the fact that we are having this conversation, as Dr. Rainbow mentioned, during Pride Month. Huh. 50 years ago, I don't think there is any one of us who imagined in the United States that same-gender marriage would be the law of the land. I don't imagine that some of us had the idea that talking about and creating spiritual communities where people who are transgender are not only welcome, but valued and included in leadership and in ways that are very visible. I don't know that any of us had that in our consciousness as this is normal or this could be normal. And so when you choose something bigger, it gives you the opportunity to demonstrate your faith in God. When the LGBTQ plus community and all of the allies to this community, people who are in this community, said, we choose respect for everyone. We choose to be and to require others to actually live the concept of love one another. It's a big idea. It's a call to going higher in the expression of how we show up as human beings. And we didn't know how to do it. We just knew love wins. I am an example of the love of God, not limited by human perception or human prejudice. So of course, I want to be in an environment where everyone is able to show up as who they are and experience love. Pride Month is not just about a parade or dressing flamboyantly or going to an event online or in person. Pride Month gives us an opportunity to see where we have chosen higher heights and have used the audacity. A few weeks ago, sacred audacity. We have applied the audacity to step forward in holy boldness and claim this as so. And now we look around, and for most of us, most places we go, online or in person, we see that the love for people who identify as LGBTQ+, the respect for people who identify as LGBTQ+, is present. Let's celebrate that. Higher heights doesn't always mean we go from bad to good. It means we go from wherever we are to the next step, and that we do that month after month, year after year, generation after generation. And we always are moving to higher heights. Not always. Speaking for myself. Not always. But when I consciously choose to move to higher heights, I usually am doing that with this month's theme, with a holy boldness as my pathway to higher heights, because I don't know what I'm doing. I just know the end I have in mind. I just know what I want the outcome to be. It's not really higher heights or holy boldness if you already know exactly what to do, how to do it, who to talk to, when to make the decision or the that no. When I'm controlling it all and I already know all the answers, that's not holy boldness. Holy boldness means that I know there's an element of the unknown, but I know that there is a knowing bigger than my own. I know that I can trust that even though something seems a little unbelievable, it can happen if I hold the intention and if I keep aligning my actions and my words with that intention, that the higher height can be reached. No better example for me or in my mind than what we have been honoring just a few days ago and this week with Juneteenth. Think about all of the people who were enslaved in the US and in Central and South America. All of the people who were enslaved as the condition, but not as the truth of their being. If you know anything at all about African American history, then you have to recognize that at every step of the way, there were people who were Black who were choosing higher heights. Even the people we don't have names for, who were living enslaved on plantations, but they got up every day. Their hope did not come from the slave master. Their hope did not come from the legal standing or the laws and the legislation in the US. Their hope came from a holy boldness that I know who created me, and I am living through this, and I have children, and they will have a different experience, and their children will have a different experience. And generations later, we almost forget that slavery was a thing. We like to pretend that we don't know it, but we often forget in our daily interaction that slavery was a thing. The people who were enslaved had to have something deeper within that brought them to a higher height of hope instead of the pain of the everyday. So Juneteenth honors that day in 1865 where General Granger, the representative of the Union or the then United States after the Civil War, saying, guess what? The law of the land is that the slaves are now equal. And we are here to tell you that, remind you, you are part of this union or union of states. And we are here to not only tell you, but we brought, a couple hundred folks with us to help enforce it. This is the example of a higher height being achieved through holy boldness. And maybe in your individual life, it's not something that dramatic. Maybe in your individual life, it's not something as obvious as Pride Month or marriage equality. Maybe in your life, it is simply making a choice to move to a different location, to try a different skill, to read some different books and learn something new. No comparison. It's all the same thing. Choosing higher heights and choosing your pathway to higher heights in a way that reflects holy boldness. So that's my message for you today, as I have thought about higher heights and as I have thought about in the last 20 minutes, what does it really mean to depend on love to lift us up to a place where we actually belong? It's been given to us. It's our birthright. All we have to do is choose it. And so I want to close going into spiritual mind treatment with the words and the reputation and connecting with the spiritual energy of someone departed, but a big part of the history of Centers for Spiritual Living. His name was Dr. or Reverend Homer Johnson, and he was an African-American minister in our movement in Southern California a few decades ago. And Reverend Homer Johnson used to begin many, if not most, of his prayers the way that I begin this one. So please join me and let's go upstairs. Let's go upstairs to a higher height. Let's go upstairs by ascending our consciousness from the world we know now into a world that we imagine based on our understanding of spiritual principle. Let's go upstairs. Let's go upstairs into the reality of love itself and make choices from that place. Let the capital L love, that is the love of spirit, be the love that comes through in my words and my actions. Let the capital L love be experienced and then expressed by the capital S self, that is my true self, seeking to express itself and evolve itself as spirit expressing. I claim this as the intention for me and for everyone within the sound of my voice right here and right now, knowing that higher heights are not only possible, but they are an integral part of human life, expressing and expanding. Yes, this is the truth. Higher heights, holy boldness. With deep gratitude for the opportunity to choose holy boldness and to choose higher heights. I simply surrender and let love lift me up to the place where I belong. And if this resonates with you and you too are ready to set this intention and live this life, then I invite you to simply repeat after me, Ashe, Aho, Amen, Amin. And together we affirm it all by saying, and so it is. And as we close out today's service, I'm going to repeat this benediction. I will say it twice. Please take it in to the very core of your being. This week, I let love lift me up higher and higher than ever before. This week, I let love lift me up higher and higher than ever before. Amen, and so it is. So now, let's retire to our breakout rooms. Have a good week, everybody.